Welcome to Part 3 of Formative Assessments. I am your host and formative guide, Meredith Godsell. Last week, we discussed the second formative assessment technique, success criteria. This week, we are going to be looking at the management of formative assessment through the use of breakout rooms and targeted teaching plans. This technique can be used in all subjects, but my example will center around Grade 5, Week 27 of the NYC DOE Science Curriculum. Even though I'm talking about this in the context of science, my breakdown is general enough that it can easily be applied to all subjects. So when we look at the lessons for each week, you may have noticed this helpful slide, the Teacher Support Students with Disability slide. This gives you a lot of helpful tips, programs, and components to use to help your students with IEPs achieve their goals. The component we are going to focus on is formative assessment. But Meredith, what is a formative assessment? And didn't you talk about them already? Good question. A formative assessment is the component of your lesson where you gather and interpret information about your students' understanding so you are able to better assist their needs. It's a big topic with lots of applications, so this week's video is about a different application of formative assessment. Simply put, all techniques of formative assessment are a check for understanding. But don't stop at checking. Make sure you use and relate the information back to your student so you can work together to fill in any gaps and push their learning forward. Please remember, formative assessment is a process you do with the child, not to the child. Okay, that sounds good, but why do I need to use a formative assessment? I have a lot on my plate during a lesson, so this had better be worth it. Don't worry, it totally is. Firstly, as a special education teacher, you know that your number one priority is helping your students achieve their IEP goals. Formative assessment will make that goal attainable by helping you monitor and track their understanding of a lesson and its objectives. Secondly, the information you get from formative assessment, especially this week's technique, gives you a glimpse into your students' thought process. So, if they're noticing something off in left field, you will be able to conference with them and help them get back on course. Thirdly, sharing and using formative assessment feedback with students helps them to build confidence and conceptualize what they're learning, as well as what complete understanding looks like. And if that isn't enough, it will also help you rate in the advanced category on your teacher evaluation. So what's not to love? Remember, using assessment in instruction is one of the 8 components within the 4 domains rated under advance and is a measure of effective teacher practice. The process of formative assessment can be conducted before, during, or after a lesson and can be used to monitor and check progress of students' IEP goals. As educators, we can utilize various tools and resources such as checklists, question stems, performance tasks, and student responses such as thumbs up, thumbs down, using an individual whiteboard, exit slips, and many others. What is targeted teaching? Simply put, it is the plan that teachers create and follow to execute targeted teaching. So let's answer the question, what is targeted teaching? It is the practice of gathering information of where students are in the learning process, targeting what they need to learn next, and then teaching to them where they are. The basic idea is to meet students where they are at so you can help them accomplish the learning target. Why do we use a targeted teaching plan? Targeted teaching plans help you manage your time so you are able to see as many students as possible. Targeted teaching plans can be used so you are able to see your most high-need students or do a general sweep. But in the end, you're able to meet with all of your students at some point in the learning process. How to implement a targeted teaching plan. How you decide to see your students is up to you. You can use one-on-ones, pairs, small groups, even large reteach groups. However, today we are going to be focusing on technology's role within the targeted teaching plan. So we are going to use Zoom breakout rooms. The nice part about using Zoom for targeted teaching plans is that you can set up your breakout rooms in advance. So if you collect your data the day before, or even the morning before, then use it in the afternoon or the next day, you are able to set up your rooms in advance rather than on the fly. But don't worry, you can also set them up during session. Alright, so here's your tutorial on setting up pre-assigned breakout rooms in Zoom. First things first, log into your Zoom account via TeachHub. Once I get to my profile, I'm going to go to Meetings. Now, please note that this must be set up in your DOE Zoom account. You need to go through and have a reoccurring meeting or a scheduled or upcoming meeting coming up in your Zoom calendar. This only works if you are the creator/owner of your meeting and if you are the host of your meeting. It's very important. So then I'm going to click on Cohort B Meeting. I'm going to click Edit. Then I'm going to go back down, all the way down to Breakout Room Preassigned. And I can either unclick that or click it, click Edit. Within my breakout room, I can add any participant I would like just by adding their email address. When you are done, click Save. Make sure you click Save down here too. And that's it. The next video will be about how to actually start the breakout rooms once you are logged into Zoom. Here's how to start the breakout rooms once you are in Zoom. Step 1, start your Zoom meeting. Remember, you must be the owner and the host in order to do this. Now, at the bottom, you'll see breakout rooms. All I have to do is click on that. I have my pre-assigned rooms, and I can click Open All Rooms. And then they're open. And if I would like to close them, I can close them. Your students will receive an email stating that they will have been assigned to a room. Otherwise, it will just pop up with all of your students already pre-assigned to a room, and they will just get automatically put in. If it does come up with something that says like, join room now, just have your students click on that. All right, so I'm going to go through your tutorial on creating a targeted teaching plan. So when you're creating a targeted teaching plan and when you're just lesson planning in general, we all know we need to break down each step of the learning process for your standard, skill, or general learning target. So here you'll see that I have 4 different groups. I have my group 1 that has blank paper. We all get enough of these every day, especially on virtual learning. And so it is still very important to meet with each of these students to go over any points they may have missed and to help them turn in a paper. So that way you can gain more information and hopefully bucket them in one of the other 3 groups. They may have not even attempted it, and be struggling with time management. They may need it read to them and we're not sure what they were reading or what to do, i.e. not understanding the directions as I have in point 3, and so they didn't want to put anything down on the page. A lot of students get very shy about not having the correct answer or being unsure, and so they would rather put nothing than actually go through and put anything down. So check in with them there. They also may not understand what the learning target is. So make sure you go back through and check with them on that, or look at your data from your check for understanding around the learning target. Finally, check in with your students. They may have something else entirely and a different misconception that you had not predicted, and that's okay. That's why we are working with our students on formative assessments, not just working and teaching to them. So make sure to open the floor for any questions or comments from students. Group 2, less than 50% of the notice and notes are relevant. So this is a student who may have gotten a little bit there, but they definitely need some assistance and probably some reteach. Some common questions that you can ask them are, do they need it read to them? Did they understand the directions? Did they understand the learning target? Make sure that you go through and redo the assignment with them, giving them some extra modeling during that time and some extra guided practice. Also, once again, be sure to go through and ask your students, what's going on? Why do you think that this was incorrect? Why do where did this idea come from? And conference with them about that, because they may have some additional insight. You learn a new thing every day. So group 3 is 50% of the noticings and notes are related to the topic or the learning target. So anything above 50%, but below 80%, it's that like middle of the range. They just need a little bit more push and they'll be there. So in this case, make sure, do they need it read to them? Do they need a specific part read to them? Do they understand all of the directions? Would they like to go over part of that? Do they understand every part of the learning target? And especially here, this is really particular when they get into different parts of the text that weren't as 100% for them. It's usually that there is some content-specific words that they weren't sure about, particularly within science. So make sure that you go over any words that they may be struggling with, and you can do a mini lesson on how to teach words within context. So make sure that you look over all of that, and then also, once again, talk to your students, open up the floor for them to ask any questions they may have. Finally, in group 4, these are your students who are at 80% or more of their noticing and notes are related to the learning target. This is mostly a place for you to push your students forward. Make sure that you do go through and still check with them and ask them if they have any questions or if there's anything they would like clarification on. Once again, it's always important to work with your students, but for the most part, you're going to just be giving them extra practice. So once you've gone through and divvied up your students between the groups, and you go into your Zoom meeting and you're all ready to go and you're ready to meet with each group, okay, how do you actually use this on Zoom? Well, we've talked about the breakout rooms, and when you actually get into those breakout rooms, it's important to note that every breakout room needs to have an adult. So what if you unfortunately only have one other adult? Please note you do need to have at least one other adult in order to use breakout rooms, because we do not need to leave students in a main call all by themselves. That's just not a great idea. So make sure you have at least one other adult just to monitor. So if you have one other adult, you can take a group into a breakout room and then change the breakout rooms once you are ready to go for your next group. While you are in your breakout room working with your specific group, the other 3 groups can be in the main call doing something independently so they don't lose a minute of their time on task. If you have more than one adult, let's say another teacher, you have a para who is very familiar with the content area and who is able to help, a teaching assistant, maybe you have a guest science teacher that day, who knows? As long as you have someone who is familiar with your students and with the content and who's able to help meet with each of these students, you can assign them a breakout room. But the main call and any breakout rooms you have need to have an adult assigned to them. And you as the host can make sure that is the case and make sure that every single room has an adult within it. Today we reviewed the what, how, and why of formative assessments, the what, how, and why of targeted teaching, the implementation of targeted teaching plans through breakout rooms, and I modeled how to create a targeted teaching plan. Next week, we will review how to conference using a targeted teaching plan. Thank you for joining me. I'm Meredith Godsall. I hope this week was a bullseye.